All right, there's a nice little taste of the sounds on this 1969 Fender Telecaster. Not perfect playing, but the purpose of this is to show you the general functionality and the sound of the guitar. 1969 Tellies are great. They're still out of that quote-unquote golden age of Fender. And the Telly thankfully changed very little during its lifetime. There's a few things, you know, like the patent number stamp on the bridge, the saddles change, pot values change in the 60s, although this does have 250K pots. A few little appointments, but overall, Telecaster pretty much stayed essentially what it was in the 50s. So that's great. Finish on this one's original. You got blonde finish on here. Again, some people confuse this with Olympic white, but you can tell it's blonde because if you look carefully, you can see the wood grain through there. It's not as transparent as you'll see, say, on early 50s, but this is definitely a blonde finished Telly with a white guard. Maple neck, so you got a skunk stripe on the back, so it's not a maple cap neck, but it's a maple neck, which is kind of standard on the Telly, although you kind of see us at this point, but you kind of see a split between rosewood and maple. So it's kind of, I don't know if it's 50-50 or not. F tuners on this guy, trapezoid F tuners, or split, or parallelogram, I should say. This one, dating it is kind of interesting. It's got 66 pots that are 250K, which is good. You do see 1 meg pots. When I got the guitar, different pots were in here, so a set of 66 pots are in there. Now you might say, wait a minute, that's 66. Wouldn't that make this like a 66? No, in 1966, after CBS had bought the company, they bought a huge lot of pots, and they kind of used them up until, I don't know, 70, 71 or so, right around then. Don't quote me on that. So this has the right 66 pots, and it's got now 69 pickups in it, 69 neck pickup and 69 bridge pickup. Now these pickups had to be rewound, which is very, very common during this era. And even when they're not rewound, most of the ones I've had, they're highly, highly microphonic. You can do a few things to keep it original and deal with the microphonics. You can put like a little tiny piece of foam underneath the bridge pickup. And what that does is it keeps the body from the noise that you get from knocking the body to translate to the pickup. Some people like that microphonic pickup because it makes it really like lively and just really picks it up, but it picks up everything, and they squeal like crazy. So the good news is that even though these needed rewinds, they're potted. They're rewound to vintage spec. I use Sonny's Custom Shop in Plano, Texas. He does an awesome job. He's very detailed, and they really sound good. They're really great sounding. So the switch, the pots, the knobs, the plate, the bridge, pick guard, finish, tuners, all that stuff is original. Now, about dating this guitar. 69 Tellys can be hard to date. Why is that? Well, there's a few reasons. One is sometimes the neck stamp just fades. You don't even see it. Sometimes maybe there's a slight, I don't know if it's concave or convex. I think it's concave. So a slight dip to the cut there. And so the stamp, which is more flat, doesn't quite impress on there all the way. There's different kinds of ink they use. It's usually green. Sometimes it's black. It just doesn't stick and it fades. And you can kind of sometimes tell a stamp was there but can't read it. Sometimes you can't even read it. It's just what was happening at this period. This one, thankfully, you can read all the numbers on it. It's a green inked neck stamp. It's like 7, 8, 9 digits. And it's hard to know. What does that mean? You know, back in the earlier days, you had neck stamps that looked like this. I don't know if you can see that. But that's 2 April 62B. So that would be for a Stratocaster neck, because it's a Stratocaster. And April's the month. 62 is the year, and B is the width. Very simple. Well, in 69 or so, they switched to this more complicated neck stamp. So it includes first is like the number for the model itself, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's right for this. And there's like a batch number, which just indicates the batch it was produced in or something like that. And then it's like you'll have a digit that's for the year. Usually it's a 9 or a 0. So I think it's 6970. It might be a 1 too. But it's not always like that. That last number can sometimes be off. Like sometimes it's a 7. Like I've got a 69 Rosewood Telecaster that has a 7 there. It's not a 1967 guitar. They didn't make them in 67. It wasn't until 68 that you had the prototype. This is clearly a production run guitar. So it's not a 67, but it has a 7 there. Why? I don't know. sometimes it'll have like a 4 that would put it at 74. And that's not right either, because by 74 they had switched to a whole different like 8 number system. So you can go online to a website called Fender Guitar HQ for more info on all this stuff. It's a great, very useful website. It's not perfect. There's a couple little mistakes, but overall it's extremely helpful and extremely accurate, and it'll help you with this. So basically, short story on this one is the neck stamp on here is one of those, like, you can't determine the date from it. It's like a 4 in the place of the year. But this is not a 74 Tele. It doesn't have the right features, and everything else points to 69. The next, or the number on the plate there you see it, it's 285278. Now those aren't an infallible guide either to dating them, because they basically produced them in large batches and put them in a bin and then kind of just used them up. They generally correspond to the year, but sometimes you'll see some that, you know, strictly if you were to take it successfully, would date the guitar later, but actually the guitar itself is a little earlier, and vice versa. You'll see earlier numbers on later guitars. So this really is at the tail end of 1969, and all the other things, the pickups that here have dates on them to 69, the pots are to 66. So I'm advertising this as a 1969 Telecaster because I believe that's what it is. But there is a chance that maybe it's an early 1970. There's no difference at all in construction, in specs, in sound, in playability, and feel between, say, a November, December Telecaster and a January 1970 Telecaster. There's no difference. It's just a few weeks. So keep that in view, but I just want to fully disclose that. I do believe it's a 1969 Telecaster for the reasons I've given. A couple small changes on the guitar. These saddles are not original. I do have an original set I will include with it if you want those. These are compensated brass saddles. You can see how they're kind of angled a little bit on the top. That just allows you to intonate your guitar properly. So they're not original, but the old saddles, they don't really intonate precisely. They intonate fine. It's not like there's a major issue, but if you're looking for precise intonation, you're going to want the compensated saddle. So these are on here. I'm leaving them on here because most of you who are I think, want that. If you don't, it's as simple as just popping on the other saddles, which are included and are all right. This switch tip is a vintage switch tip, but I've had to use some tape underneath to keep it holding on because they pop off and it doesn't quite fit on there. So there's that. The jack here has been changed. They just put a plate on there. The guitar's been refretted, which is a bonus. They're larger frets. It's a nice job. It's been well done. The guitar plays really great. And there's an added string tree right here. This kind of became standard in the late 70s, but this is an added one. The idea is if you increase the break angle of the strings over the nut, they'll sustain better. And I think the nut's been changed too with the refret. And once in a while, not so much on the E and B strings because they've always had the string tree, but especially the G string can sometimes just sound kind of dead. And that's because of the way it often sits in here and doesn't quite get a good break angle. So that can help with that. There's other ways to do it. Like one thing I often do is I just wind the G string all the way down to the bottom, and that gives us pretty much the same break angle that a string tree would. But anyway, they added the string tree because, hey, why not? You can see the little notch here, which is another sign, that it's definitely not a 74. But anyway, all that's good. The finish, the bridge, the pick guard, all that stuff, no funny routes or anything like that, strap buttons, it's all good. So anyway, I probably went into more detail here than you want, but at least you get a taste of the sounds on this guitar. A few changes, but still a really solid player, and the kind of things you'd expect from a guitar that got good use. I should say neck profile is a nice chunky like D shape. The neck profile is thicken up a little bit during these years, so a lot of people like the bigger necks. So anyway, it's a 1969 Fender Telecaster. Thanks for checking out the video. If you watch this far, special bonus, if you do buy it on my website, the link is below on the YouTube page. You will be able to purchase it without being charged sales tax at checkout, unless you're in Washington State. Got to charge it if you're here because that's where I'm at. I'm a licensed business, but so far, small sellers like me, if you buy direct, They don't charge sales tax at checkout. Be aware of use tax and other laws in your state regarding how to do that. I'm not trying to encourage you to be a tax dodger, but it is what it is. So thanks for checking out the video. Have a great day.